Welcome to episode 21. Before I get into reality and frustrations, over the last fortnight I consciously scanned the daily newspaper and realized there was hardly any light or joyful news that put a smile to my countenance in the morning. Now, I don't listen to TV news, irrespective of the fact that the nation wants to know why I don't. And I restrict myself to the morning paper, which, apart from the last 2 or 3 pages that cover sports and some local news, bribery, corruption, child molestation, fratricide, cyber fraud, misappropriation, politics, and active judicial interventions, among others, hog the 12 to 15 pages across the states, which leave me wondering why I even start every morning with this depressing kind of medication. And then I notice my spouse. She doesn't read a newspaper. And sometimes she's letting out extended peals of loud laughter while happily YouTubing or reeling in a stand-up who's joyfully explaining our daily lives and without any vulgarity or profanity. It's laughter therapy in a way, and she seems to be a happier person for the rest of the day. I'm lucky on a day when the reel is forwarded to me and I guffaw silently, and it leaves me in a much better space than the newspaper did some 30 minutes ago. So I'm wondering if abandoning the 6-decade-old newspaper habit might change my status from being Captain Grumps in the morning to Shri Geniality. Now, coming back to the real world and time, this episode has a Latin title borrowing 2 bits from Julius Caesar, and it's called Veni, Vidi, Flevi, or I came, I saw, I wept. Earlier this year, we covered some 2,500 kilometers driving within South India, which will be a subject by itself in a later episode on highway driving in the South. About 1,600 kilometers of this trip in January this year was in Karnataka, in our endeavor to tick off a few items on our bucket list. Hampi and Badami had been languishing on the to-do list for possibly 25 years, and meanwhile we had shifted from Karnataka to Tamil Nadu. Now that I'd hung up my boots and retired from regular work, we decided that mid-January was the best time to drive our roads. While the ASI monuments at Hampi, Badami and Chitradurga were very well curated and maintained, I was moved and disturbed sufficiently with other observations that I wrote the following mail, first to the collector and other responsible bureaucrats of all the districts we passed through on 1st of February. On getting no response from the official email IDs to 2 additional reminders, I escalated to the Chief Secretary, Karnataka, and was pleasantly surprised when the PA to the Chief Secretary responded to all the same people, now with Gmail addresses, asking them to respond. Still no response, and yet another reminder was sent. By now it was end April. The following is an extract of my mail posted as a senior and committed citizen. Dear administrators of Vijayanagar and Bagalkot, I recently completed a 1,600-kilometer drive that took me to your areas of jurisdiction in order to tick off places on my bucket list like Hampi and Badami, while also visiting Ayole, Davanagere, Chitradurga Fort en route to Mysore and thence to the Nilgiris. Veni, Vidi, Flevi, I came, I saw, I wept, is the title for a future podcast of mine on Hat Talks with Hutch, which will cover my trip. While offering kudos to the ASI for the upkeep and maintenance, it's an absolute shame that outside the UNESCO World Heritage Sites like Hampi and the beautiful caves of Badami maintained by the ASI, the surroundings are in garbage-infested towns. The PM's effort at Swachh Bharat and smart cities, which was apparently started in earnest, seems to be short-lived and forgotten. It is a pity to note that neither the administration nor the local political representatives cannot see what visitors from around India and the world see just outside the ASI premises. I noted streets being swept off the main road and into the side lanes just before the visit of the Karnataka Chief Minister to Badami on the 18th and 19th of Jan. Visitors and locals don't spare the beautiful and vast Agastya Lake in Badami, where there are just 3 or 4 benches. It could have several more with large lined dustbins and bold notices of "Do not litter," "Use the bin," "Be fined." CCTV cameras around the areas where the benches are could be monitored, and car numbers and people located and fined. In Iole, outside the gates of the ASI monuments, there is dirt, chaos, and again garbage India that shows its face. Surprisingly, Davanagere, one of the 100 smart cities planned, was clean with concrete roads, yet the glass house erected seems incomplete, abandoned, and more like a white elephant. Chitradurga was relatively clean and the fort impressive and very well maintained by the ASI. Having been a leader and an administrator for long, I cannot comprehend why you are unable to think out of the box, as I would do if I were in charge, and install many more dustbins or collection centers for waste and motivate local people to have pride in their own town. Let them be the enforcers and support them when they report offenders. Pride will come when they inform visitors that it is their city and they do not want dirt. Create ownership among young government school students in classes 10 to 12 in pairs to be wardens of cleanliness, and offer them the power to both report and spot fine visitors during the seasons. The students are our future, and if it remains in their heads, the responsibility will be transferred to their homes and better places they move on to in life. Why can't we start by trying to keep Hampi and Badami plastic and garbage free and institute both fines and enforcement? And so the mail goes on. My last reminder to the PA of the Chief Secretary Karnataka on April 26th had the following additional note. It is obvious that the young breed of civil servants are not concerned about a message from the Chief Secretary's office as they continue to ignore you. What chances then does a concerned citizen have to be heard if they don't heed their own bosses? It's a shame that basic courtesy is not taught at the institutes where these bureaucrats are trained these days. Or have they simply become political and ignore, hoping that the issues raised like I have just go away? Perhaps they require a refresher course in the objectives of public service and to listen to voices of citizens of this country. I don't see much future for either the state, and if this disease has spread further, for the country, if our bureaucracy is deaf. Signed, Concerned Senior Citizen. So while many of you heard the story of Havildar Neelam and the Haryana police in episode 4, this is an experience of the country's bureaucracy that takes a salary, enjoys perks of position, and does no work. Nonetheless, I finally registered the above on the PG portal in end June 2026 and note that it has progressed, and while initially was marked to the Director General ASI, it has of 7th July been assigned to an officer of the ASI. So while Veni and Vidi referred to the ASI monuments, Flevi was thanks to the garbage, dirt and chaos that is spreading across the country like a wildfire with no visible steps on containment. While I do hope that my grievance lodged on the PG portal has some traction and things improve at these UNESCO heritage towns, and while you, like me, might consider meanwhile in switching from news to the occasional reels of profanity-free stand-up comedians to bring some hearty laughter to your day, remember to like, share and subscribe. Till the next time, this is Captain Jun signing off.